Oh, look at this old cassette deck. This is a Realistic SCT-7 sold by Radio Shack in 1975, and this was made by Toshiba. And what's interesting is this is actually a clone, well, pretty much a clone of the Toshiba PT-490, but that was sold in 1973. So for what this is, technology-wise, this was actually pretty dated when Radio Shack started selling it. The mid-70s was a wild time for cassette decks. A lot of change happened really fast. You had things like front-loading cassette decks, as opposed to this top-loading configuration that pretty much all cassette recorders used in the early days. You had things like tape types, chrome and metal tape. I think metal tape came out in the late 70s. This obviously doesn't have that. Tape formulations improved. The quality of circuitry improved. So much happened in the 70s that improved the sound quality, the viability, and just kind of perfected the technology you have in these. So this is a fairly early design. And it's a pretty high-end one for the time because this has auto-reverse. I'll show it in the Radio Shack catalog here. It was new for 1975. Here they are pairing it with a stereo set with a bunch of realistic components. And then here's the catalog page showing it. And what's interesting is this kind of Mickey Mouse design of the record level controls that Realistic seem to carry across all of their top-loading cassette models. Instead of just having a separate left and right record level, you have a master level, and then you have these two indented left and right offset adjustments. So if left or right is louder or quieter, you can tweak these a little bit, but then you control everything with the master volume. It's such a weird idea because it costs more. You could have just had two separate controls here. You don't need this master, but I guess they thought this would be more convenient. For auto-reverse, I mean, it's pretty standard for an auto-reverse deck. Out just means it'll play to the end of the tape and stop. In means it'll play one side, switch over, play the other side, and then stop. And non-stop. If you just want to listen to that same tape forever, that's your choice. Tape types, just standard and chrome, because this is an early specimen. This is before metal tapes were a thing. And your Dolby system, which is the noise reduction, which I've never been a fan of. And of course your power switch. On the front, you have a 1/4-inch phones jack for your headphones, a left and right mic jack. And interestingly enough, so on the Toshiba, you actually have output level controls that not only affect the output going to your stereo, but I would assume also your headphone jack. But this one has it on the back, so it makes using headphones on this really annoying. So here's the back of this one, and here's your output level. They put it all the way back here for some reason. And the final button, record edit, which is just a record mute. So if you're recording something and you want to mute the audio coming in, let's say either because you're dropping the needle on a record, or maybe you're recording off the radio and you want to cut the DJ out and just get the music, that's what this does. And just going back to these record level controls again, you'll notice that the Toshiba from a couple years earlier had slider controls. So from what I've been able to tell, looking back at old equipment, sliders were all over the place. They were all the rage in the early 70s. It was kind of like a fad. But by the late 70s, they were kind of gone. But you'll notice that all the pictures that I'm showing of these realistic cassette decks have rotary knobs. And then here's a 1977 catalog excerpt. Here's a couple of them. And they show in 1977, Realistic was all into the slider controls. So I don't know why Radio Shack was kind of behind in trends and technology like this, but it's a little interesting. So yeah, I saw this at the tail end of an estate sale locally, and it was sitting there. It said parts. Actually, this label right here was on it saying parts. Asked them, they said they wanted $10 for it. And looking inside, it looked like it absolutely destroyed someone's poor tape. Look at all this tape that was just wrapped around that pinch roller. Oh dear. That's not good. It weighs a lot. like it's a solid metal chassis inside. So anyway, took it home and had to order quite a few parts to get it working. So now I'm just going to show you all the repair stuff I went through to get it working to the state it's in right now. If you want to skip that, there's chapter indexes in the description. And afterwards, I'll show you what it does now that it's all fixed up. Here's a look at the inside of the Realistic SCT-7 cassette deck. And what's interesting is that this metal chassis here, you can tell, is for the Toshiba counterpart, because it has the slider controls, and they just sort of drilled holes in random locations for the rotary dials. And same thing here, right? We want these slightly in a different location from the Toshiba. Just drill a hole over the existing hole. Taking a look at the mechanism here, this is an absolute thing of beauty. So you have this button here which changes direction, and that basically engages this solenoid, which lifts up, and then there's a sort of latching mechanism here that changes the direction. So if I were to hit play, you can see that this pinch roller is engaged, and if I engage the direction solenoid, now that pinch roller is engaged. And in addition to that, the record function, so if I were to go to hit record, it's not going to record because it's not detecting the record tab in this tape that I would have in here, right? So you've got two little feelers here to detect the record tab. You got one on this side and one on this side. Now, of course, you only want to look at one record tab, and that's the correct record tab for the side you're recording on, right? If you remove the record tab for side A and you have this on side A, you don't want to be able to record just because it's detecting the tab on side B. So, depending on the direction it's going, changes the feeler it's using. So right now, that won't engage. If I flip this up, it does. But if I change the direction and I hold this feeler up here, that won't go, because I have to engage this guy here for record to work. In addition, this feeler controls this little leaf switch here, but this one doesn't. But this feeler does it in both directions, so I'm not sure what it would be for. Originally I thought it might have to do with which record head is being engaged, but I think that's actually selected by something else that this solenoid controls, because there's so many other things, right? The take up and supply reel, things like that. Because this should have to do with when you're only in record, right? If the record tab is present on this side, but you're recording in the other side, this would send the wrong signal. Anyway, it's a mechanically beautiful 1970s design. Flipping around to the back side, you see these absolutely massive flywheels. They're pretty thick. Typically flywheels are kind of thin and large to keep that centrifugal weight to stabilize. I don't know how well the weight distribution works when they're thicker and not wider like this, but these are massive, massive wheels. And there's a flat belt that comes off this AC motor up here, and then goes here and like that and all around and back. That had turned to goo. And then there's also another belt that runs up to this, I guess, detection switch or something like that to detect that the tape's moving, and then over to the counter. That one was also kind of stretched out and not great. So I've ordered new belts, and I also took these out and I cleaned everything, cleaned off all the residue on this. I think the pinch rollers on the other side are not in great shape. As I showed at the beginning, the tape inside a cassette had got stuck on a pinch roller and just wrapped around. And I think that's because it's gotten a little sticky in its age. So I'm going to take this outside and try some rubber renew on them because, yeah, I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to find replacement pinch rollers for this 50-some-odd-year-old machine. Also, these are JIS screws, and I got cocky when I was taking them out and didn't put the right amount of downward force on this one. Easily stripping it, despite having, you know, what I thought was a JIS bit. It works well on these normally, but you still got to do it right, so I had to get a saw and cut a slot on there to be able to take this screw out. Belts. Okay, it's time to put these belts on. Now, before I put this all together and try it with the new belts, I wanted to address some of the rubber in here. There's a bunch of little idler tires, and they were really smooth. So I gave them a treatment with rubber renew. That sort of nasty, use in a well-ventilated area. Let it dry off and evaporate, brought it in here, and they still weren't quite to my liking. So I did a little bit of dremeling with a drill. So I just sort of put these on the end of a screwdriver, like that, and then just put the Dremel bit at an angle so that it both spins this around, but it also sands it at a bit of an angle, perpendicular, or at least at an angle to the direction this spins, to give it a little bit more bite. I'm not sure how well these are going to work just because of how old they are, but giving them the best chance that they have. Also doused the record play switch in some deoxit. Not sure I like all the wiggle in that belt. Hopefully it works itself in. It's a little bit loose. I did order the right size based on some documentation I found online, but who knows, right? Whoops. I threaded the belt wrong. I had a 50-50 chance, and the other direction made more sense in my brain, but when I flipped this over, the capstans were running in the wrong direction, and the reels weren't spinning, which means the idler wasn't getting pushed in the correct direction. So, the way the belt goes is like this, and then it uses this pulley here to go all the way over to this flywheel, back, and around. I didn't actually have a intact belt inside this when I got it as a reference, so oops.
And he does all the things my life anew. Instead of high.
Wow, it almost looks like it's not spinning in the camera, but that's just the frame rate. It's going fast. Rewind. That's completely stationary. Wow. Let's see if I can make it look different here. Okay, there. I set the shutter speed to manual. Shutter speed. And you can see it's going pretty good. Awesome. Oh yeah, these pinch rollers feel like $1,000,000 now. Ooh, that one's not. Okay, this one feels excellent. This one feels scaly. I might try and give this a little bit of sanding with my little Dremel trick. You can tell this is the direction that got all the use. Alright, that's better. Still not perfect. Still feels scaly and a little bit smooth. This one just feels so much better, but they both appear to be doing okay. Just doing some quick epoxy repair. This little panel on the side here was loose. And just a complaint. I miss the days when epoxy came in 2 different containers for 2-part epoxy instead of the stupid plunger that you never get the right amount out of. So dumb. And one last repair. Let these set overnight, and then I'll be able to put this together. You can see the cutouts for the Toshiba version on this piece of plastic as well. So here and here, as well as some cutouts for switches that aren't on this one. I'm guessing there was an even higher end model that I'm not aware of. But these additional cutouts for the Radio Shack version appear to be in the mold, so these weren't drilled after the fact. So this was just a common part similar to the metal plate between the 2 models. Well, I ended up ordering a new pinch roller. Actually, pinch rollers. So I replaced the one on the right, because that was the one that was causing me a lot of problems. And let's see if we can get a good view here. Yeah, it was definitely worn out. And now it seems this tape was giving me trouble. I think this tape might be a little sticky. So this was a good test because some of them just played fine and some of them, like this one, were struggling, as I had a very brief clip there. So now, yeah, it's got a lot of dropouts, but now I have noticed that I had to really pull back on the adjustment for the azimuth to get a good sound, but I'm having trouble getting it to stay consistent between the two directions here. That could be because this pinch roller is a little worn out and it's riding in one direction or the other. I need to make sure that these are at the same height, because I believe that might have an effect of moving the tape up or down depending on the direction. So I might play around with this a little bit, but this new pinch roller has made all the difference. And replacing it was easier than I thought. You just take these two nuts off and these washers. This whole metal assembly comes out. Well, it's got this weird arm on the bottom that you have to kind of pull out. And there's a spring there. And this little pin easily pops out with just a light tap with the hammer. Now, the only trouble that I ran into was the thickness on this plastic piece that it rides on here is like 0.5 millimeter narrower than the only replacements I could find. Because obviously this is an old uncommon model. But 2 millimeter shaft hole, everything else is the same. Basically the same diameter as the other one. Inner diameter is not the same, so I can't take this off and put it on that plastic there. So I have to keep it as is. But what I was able to do, if you see there's a little ridge there, a little ring, I was able to just shave that off with a knife, and that seemed to do it. I'll decide if I want to do this one as well. I probably should, but it is working fine. So, well, I've decided to replace the pinch roller on this side as well. It could just be because this is a auto-reverse deck, and they're kind of notorious for not having good reliability with the azimuth in both directions, but this one's worn out, and I have a new one right there, so I might as well just do it. Three washers here. And this should just lift up. Yep. So, yeah, this is what it looks like. It's a mirror image of the one on the other side. And this spring can push down. This sits here and gets pushed up, and then this goes and sits on the back side of the pinch roller assembly. And then that post just goes down there. This other post, which I'm not really sure what that does. All right, now I see what it does. You can see it there. It rides along that plate, the plate that holds the heads here. So the spring pushes it against that plate until it either reaches the capstan, or this post here gets blocked by another plate on the bottom if it's going in the other direction. That's what this one rides on here. All these extra posts sticking out here make it a little difficult, so I'm resting it on this small vise so that I can just gently knock the pin out here. Alright, new pinch roller's in, and I realized I'm an idiot. But, I mean, you're watching these videos, you already knew that. So I showed a brief clip of me adjusting this nut here, and then getting a nice clean sound, right? The azimuth is in. This is not the azimuth adjustment. I just saw it and went, oh, okay, sounds good. This is this little guide that sits against the head. So by me adjusting this up, this has just been crunching the edge of the tape, and I noticed a sound, and then I saw all this oxidized dust under there. So I crunched up my test tape pretty good, but whatever, it's not a good tape. Anyway, the actual azimuth screw is hidden down here and was completely full of glue. So I got the glue out of that Phillips head, adjusted it, and now I have a nice consistent sound between both sides. Now I do have a proper azimuth tape. I broke down and ordered some like calibrated tapes from Germany years ago, so but that's kind of like the final thing I do because I don't want them to get eaten. You know, case in point, had I been using them here, it would have gotten wrecked. So I think I got this by ear pretty good. It sounds very nice, and in the very end I'll probably tweak that. I did notice that the meters are pretty low when they're playing stuff back. I rarely see them get up to where I consider out, like I would expect pre-recorded tapes on other decks. They tend to go up to the top of the green. And this barely registers on either side. It doesn't sound quiet in the output, so I might just need to adjust the meters. But before I start touching any of that, I want to get, I think I have a Dolby tape that is like recorded at exactly 0 dB. So I should be able to align these. There's a ton of adjustments down there, just asking to be twiddled. Okay, the wow and flutter on this is horrendous. There's actually two problems. The wow and flutter, which is slow enough I would consider it a wow. It's like a woo woo. And the motor gets quite warm. Gets really toasty. And that's not even under load. Now, I oiled the front bearing, but the rear bearing, you can see this motor is press fit together. And I'm trying to tell if the heat is coming from this bearing or if it's coming from the windings. It might be coming from the windings. It feels warmer on the outside here than it does on the top, which would lead me to believe that there's a run capacitor down here, and that run capacitor is in need of replacement. But from what I've read, if you have a bad run capacitor, you're going to experience speed problems, like slow speed or torque. This seems to be running at exactly the right speed. Like my 3150 Hertz tape here plays consistently at 3133. Perfectly fine. Other than the wow and flutter, this seems to be working great. It's got plenty of torque to operate everything. So I have ordered a new capacitor anyway because I had to do an order. This is a 1 microfarad at 250 volt. I had to place an order anyway for some old tube stuff, and similar capacitors are used in this application, so it's no big deal. And I even tried putting the old pinch roller back, the good one from this side, so I popped it right back in here because I thought, well, maybe the issue is the new pinch rollers, because I had to shave them off a little bit to get them inside, and maybe I didn't do a good job and there's a bit of an angle and it's kind of wobbling back and forth. And that might be related. Maybe I don't have the heights for this set correctly. But it's really bad. Like the wow, here I'll play some. Anyway, I'll wait till the capacitor arrives, and fingers crossed that solves this heat issue. Oh yeah, see, it's starting to get real warm. I'll shut this off. Hopefully that solves this heat issue, and also the wow issue. Because, you know, these are good quality belts from a reputable source. These are good quality pinch rollers from a reputable source. Everything's been oiled, well, everything that I can, not the back bearing, but everything's been oiled, lubricated, thoroughly cleaned. And I looked up the specs for this. It has a good wow and flutter spec, or at least the Toshiba version does. This realistic version I can't find any info on. But the Toshiba, it's the same thing, has very good specs, so this should be performing better. Well, I managed to find a replacement capacitor for this run capacitor here, so you can kind of see I've precariously disconnected it, and then I've patched in this newer one. Same thing, 1 microfarad. I think this one's like 400 volts or something. Oh no, 250 volts, 400 volts AC. So it's the same rating as this guy here. 5% as well, same tolerance. And yeah, it didn't help the wow and flutter at all. And this motor is still getting atrociously warm. So it's got to be the bearing inside this motor. Okay, this is really interesting. I took this pulley off because I was going through everything. I was checking the back bearings because, yeah, I had oiled these to see if that would solve it. I made sure they were sitting correctly. And then this pulley here. I realized I hadn't actually taken this off and inspected and lubricated it. It was a little stiff. So I removed it, and it's got this nylon piece, let's see there, right there, and it was absolutely covered in grease, old grease. Now, it's got these, they look like graphite or some sort of material. They're like a metal material, and this has a metal insert that rides on a metal post. So all of this is metal, and they use the kind of grease I would expect to use plastic on metal, but you have a nylon spacer there. So this should just ride on the nylon spacer without anything else. So I cleaned it all up with isopropyl alcohol, and that's actually made quite a bit of a difference. It hasn't fully solved it, and actually I tried running this motor with nothing attached to it to see if anything in this mechanism was bogging it down, and no, now this still gets warm. But I'm wondering if maybe this is just, it just got warm. That's just how it was. It seems to stabilize around 56 degrees Celsius, which is way hotter than I would want to see it, but that doesn't cause a problem with it. Maybe it's just how these were. I don't know. Let me know if you know more about these. At any rate, though, I think I'm going to put this together and call it. All right, it's back together. The temperature on the motor, I think it just is what it is. So cleaning that little pulley inside did improve the wow and flutter a little bit. It's still not great. It still sounds like an old cassette deck when you're listening to it. It could be the old rubber on the idler tires because it's more of a slow wow with the reel moving. I'm going to leave it at this point. I don't think there's much I can do. Those idler tires are basically unobtainium at this point. So let's demonstrate it. Let's hear how it sounds. First, let's just start with some generic YouTube music. I think it sounds fine. I mean, it could obviously sound a lot better, but this is tolerable. If it was playing, I'd be able to tell it's coming from an older cassette deck, but yeah, it's not the worst. But you can definitely hear it there. Going up and down. It's definitely a slow speed oscillation, more of a wow. That's why I'm kind of thinking it's to do with one of those tires. I think it's kind of to do with one of those tires being misshapen. Auto reverse works great. Also, the eject sticks a little bit. There's a little arm that runs on the plastic, and the first time I put this together, that arm got pushed and bent in. So I had to do my best to bend everything back, and it's not quite perfect. So you gotta put a little bit of effort into it. I'm not sure I want to take this whole thing apart again. It was an absolute pain to put back together. You have to put the top on first and then slide this wood around and then kind of line the bottom up, and every single screw is different. Some go into metal, some go into plastic, some need little standoff extensions. So it's really a puzzle to put back together, especially like me when I took this apart weeks ago and completely forgot where everything went. So anyway, not taking it apart for that. You get some period appropriate music. I don't think this tape came out in 1973, but this album sure did. One complaint I have with this, and I think this is a complaint that reading about these types of decks, these auto-reverse decks, it's very, very sensitive to the azimuth. For example, if I line up the azimuth to the actual proper calibration tape I have, then every pre-recorded tape sounds like absolute ass. If I line it up to a tape I recorded on a known calibrated deck that was calibrated to that calibration tape, it sounds okay. But I kind of have to pick the difference, and then of course obviously you have to split the difference between the two directions because they don't line up perfectly. I managed to get the pinch rollers at what I think is the same height, which I think helps, but I think it's just the nature of these. This is a very early specimen of auto reverse and has its flaws.
Well, the water's still running in the bathtub, and I think I left the kitchen light on.
Well, there was a time in this fair land when the railroad did not run.
Jane came by with a lock of your hair.
Don't get strung up by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't take your love to town.
So overall, I mean, it's okay. You can definitely hear the wow and flutter issue. As well, now, I'm fairly certain this is just the azimuth varying from tape to tape. As I said, I kind of set it in the middle, but there's a bit of a sibilance with a lot of the high frequencies. And in my experience, like, if you set the azimuth for, say, a proper alignment tape on a deck, like that M90 I have, when you play other cassettes, they might be off a little bit, but it doesn't sound that bad. Now, of course, this is 1970s gear from Toshiba. I'm sure every capacitor inside this is probably due for replacement, and I will not be doing that because, yeah, the wow and flutter makes it really not worth it, but that could be part of the problem. So the last thing I want to do is try recording on a Radio Shack branded super tape. Obviously not this one. This one's sealed. I kind of want to keep it sealed. It's a nice thing for the shelf. But I have this used one we can use. So this tape probably has a lot of dropouts. It's used, got it in a free batch of whatever. So I'm going to try recording some YouTube audio library on here, and we'll do a direct feed playback. Let's get this set up and see how it sounds with its own recording. Twice the wow and flutter. That's interesting. Some music actually sounds okay. Like the style of music hides the wow. But other music, obviously not so good. Wide range of sound quality from the tapes. And the song I used is already kind of heavily distorted, so probably not the best test for this, but I think it sounded good enough. On that note, I think I'm done messing around with this, and thank you for watching.